Hey friends, good morning. Derek here from BOM Socks with more BOM Bites, where we feast upon the words of Christ one bite at a time. So this week we are starting off with section 67 of the Doctrine and Covenants. Now, as I'm doing that for you, I want to show you a picture of our wonderful prophet, President Russell M. Nelson. Now, my question is this man perfect? And the answer is obviously no. I mean, pretty darn close. I mean, here's a 96-year-old amazing man who just does everything so well. Is he perfect? No, he's not. In fact, here's a revelation to you. Nobody on this earth is perfect, right? Our quorum of the 12 apostles, bishops, seminary teachers, missionaries, we're all, I believe the church is true, because if not, the members would have ruined it a long time ago, right? So the question is this: why should we then follow and sustain our church leaders even though that they are imperfect? I was having a conversation with someone the other day about this very thing. They're like, why do we hold these individuals up as perfect? And like, they're not perfect, including this man right here, Joseph Smith. The question is, was he perfect? No. And I'll tell you what, that gets a lot of people really frustrated, knowing that Joseph Smith was not a perfect man, that he made mistakes, he had character flaws, that he was horrible at finances, and that he struggled with things. Joseph was a big kid who just enjoyed playing. He loved his associations with people, and having to deal with all the stresses of his life had to be very, very difficult. So why would the Lord restore his true, perfect gospel through an imperfect, uneducated farm boy? Well, to that end, let me take you to section 67 of the Doctrine and Covenants, okay? With a reminder about this guy, William E. McLellin. You guys know him. I introduced you to him last time. Very educated man. He joins the church. And I think William, because he was so educated, he was a school teacher. He was a self-proclaimed physician. That's kind of what you did back then. But I think he looked at Joseph as if to be like, hey, this guy is kind of flawed. I'm educated. I'm a smart guy. Perhaps I was brought into the church at this time, for such a time as this, to be able to just save the day, right? Maybe the Lord needs me to take over here. And so William often found himself correcting Joseph, which leads to what's going on in section 67, which almost, and I don't want to call it a battle, but kind of. So let me show you this here. So you have got Joseph Smith, all right? So Joseph, very little formal education. He's a farmer. He's not a very eloquent speaker. You've got William E. McLellin on this other side, very well educated. He's a school teacher, gifted speaker and writer. He is a self-proclaimed physician. And so what you've got here is section 67. So the Lord gives an interesting challenge in this little battle. Again, I don't want to call it a battle, but just it almost seems like in this corner, here's Joseph. In this corner, here's William E. McLellin. So the Lord says this in verse 4 of section 67. He says, "Now, I, the Lord, give unto you a testimony of the truth of these commandments which are lying before you. Your eyes," and I think he's talking to William here, "your eyes have been upon my servant Joseph Smith Jr. His language you have known, his imperfections you have known, and you have sought in your hearts knowledge that you might express beyond his language. This you also know. Now, seek ye out of the book of commandments, even the least that is among them, and appoint him that is the most wise among you." So take this, the simplest of revelations, and I want you to pick the guy that's smartest among you. And William E. McLellin maybe was that guy. "Or if there be any among you that shall make one like unto it, then you're justified in saying that ye do not know that they are true. But if ye cannot make one like unto it, ye are under condemnation, if ye do not bear record that they are true. For ye know that there is no righteousness in them, and that which is righteous cometh down from above, from the Father of lights." So why do you think Joseph Smith, who had limited formal schooling, could produce these revelations, but William E. McLellin, who was not well educated, could not? And why might it be helpful to know that the Lord reveals his will to our leaders, even though he knows these men are not perfect? Well, if you go to History of the Church, one of the things it says about William E. McLellin, it says, "William E. McLellin unwisely took the Lord's challenge and tried to write a revelation. Concerning this attempt, Joseph Smith recorded, after the foregoing was received, William E. McLellin, as the wisest man, in his own estimation, having more learning than sense," whew, that's tough, "endeavored to write a commandment like unto one of the least of the Lord's, but failed. It was an awful responsibility to write in the name of the Lord. The elders and all present that witnessed this vain attempt of a man to imitate the language of Jesus Christ, renewed their faith in the fullness of the gospel and in the truth of the commandments and revelations which the Lord had given to the church through my instrumentality. And the elders signified a willingness to bear testimony of their truth to all the world. The sad thing about William A. McLellin is, again, he's a good man. He's a lot of potential, a very gifted man. The question is, did William A. McLellin follow the counsel he was given? Well, Brother McLellin served faithfully for several years. He was called to serve as one of the first members of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles in this dispensation. Again, a gifted, good man. However, he did not continue faithfully to the end. In fact, he turned against the prophet Joseph Smith. You will hear some of that in Saints as you keep reading. And he was excommunicated twice, once in 1836 and then again in 1838. Now here's an interesting story. In 1839, while Joseph was in prison at Richmond, Missouri, Mr. McLellin, who was a large and active man, went to the sheriff and asked for the privilege of flogging the prophet. Permission was granted, on condition that Joseph would fight. The sheriff made McLellin's earnest request known to Joseph, who consented to fight if his irons were taken off. McLellin then refused to fight unless he could have a club, to which Joseph was perfectly willing, but the sheriff would not allow them to fight on such unequal terms. So you see kind of the mess that William A. McLellin came because of that pride in his heart and because he felt like, he's like, if this man is imperfect, then why should we follow him? Now, here's an interesting question I want you to think about. Who is an imperfect person that has blessed your life in the church, even though there were probably more qualified than them to serve in a certain calling? That would be kind of an interesting way to look at this. And so that's something that you can talk about, something you can discuss. So here's a quote from Elder Jeffrey R. Holland that I think helps with that. Be kind regarding human frailty, your own as well as that of those who serve with you in a church led by volunteer mortal men and women, except in the case of his only perfect begotten Son. Imperfect people are all God has ever had to work with. That must be terribly frustrating to him, but he deals with it. So should we. And when you see imperfection, remember that the limitation is not in the divinity of the work. So be patient and kind and forgiving. Like I said, God must be truly frustrated when he works with us as individuals who are imperfect. So what I would say to you is be very patient with imperfect people out there. Trust that the majority of these individuals are trying to do what is right as best as they know how to. And I'm okay with that. Hopefully that will help you when dealing with individuals in the church who might be a little imperfect. So anyway, I hope that helps you guys out. Thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and thank you for sharing. We will see you tomorrow. Godspeed. Bye-bye.